Hey guys, how's it going? It is Ali Coppin here today, and I have some exciting news from you coming from Roland HQ, and that is the announcement of the SPD-SX Pro. Today is the 20th of September. It is about midday, and they just announced this thing this morning. And I'm going to be going through the pad itself, going to be walking you through it. The features, the specs, the pictures, what I think of it, and who I think this is aimed at and who it's good for. So yeah, let's get into it. If you've seen anything on the social media, you've probably seen a really cool trailer featuring Stephanie B. Great drummer, give her a follow. Sort of like a DJ drummer. Really cool watching her perform and all her videos. So the first thing that strikes me is the new sort of updated look of the pad. So the pad now has the LEDs and you can actually change this. And this was something on the, if you know, with the original or Mark II SPD-SX and the Mark I, they didn't have the bar light strips. And a lot of us drummers, we would take our neon tape and we would tape our pads up to sort of show where the pads actually were, which, I mean, it is kind of far from ideal because it would leave this sticky residue on your pads when you came to take it off. But the thing that struck me the most is, well, they're actually going for what I thought when I first saw this. I thought, oh gosh, it's the Elisa Strike pad. Pretty much looks identical. I can get a picture up. Let me just show you. Elisa Strike. If I can actually spell today. There we go. So the Elisa Strike pad. So this thing actually came out a few years ago now. I've seen drummers use it. I was actually on tour with Tears for Fears and Jamie Wolam. He actually uses the Elisa's gear, which is really cool. So yeah, that was the first thing that I thought of when I saw the new Roland SPD-SX Pro. So yeah, apart from that, it's pretty much the same pad. One thing I do like is they've kept it the same size. So if you do have the existing Roland SPD-SX, it is going to fit into your case, which is a huge bonus if you ask me, because cases are a lot of money. Apart from that, it's in the black color. They haven't announced any other colors yet. As you know, Roland, they released the red SPD-SX, and that was probably about 4 or 5 years ago now, and that is the last one that we've seen from the SPD-SX range. But this is in all black. I think it looks really classy. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the pictures. I will scroll through the gallery just to show you what we got. So yeah, we've got all the lights, we've got the sides, we've got the back. This is something that I'm going to come to in a minute because I think it's one of the most important features. I mean, it's basically what you're outputting, sort of enough about how it looks, etc. And some pictures of it in use with a kit. So all in all, first inspection, it looks really cool. So let's get into the features of this kit. So we're going to go down the page and we're going to see what we get. So it says that it's the flagship sampling sidekick. The SPD-SX Pro is the ultimate sampling pad for the most demanding gigs. With years of road testing and extensive user feedback from SPD-S and SPD-SX, the top-tier SPD-SX Pro raises the bar again. Harnessing the advanced sample pad technology of its predecessors, the SPD-SX Pro boasts an array of requested professional enhancements and is built for life on the road. Illuminate dark stages with a large color display and customizable multicolor trigger lights. Expand your performance setup with more audio outputs, additional trigger inputs, so that's quite cool, and hi-hat and expression pedal for control. You see, I quite like that. I think having the additional hi-hat FX expression pedal control is a really good feature for us drummers that are electronic based, and we want that sort of natural feeling hi-hat. And go further with a massive 32 gigabytes of memory, 48 kHz audio playback, increased pad sensitivity without crosstalk, and a dedicated SPD-SX Pro app for easier kit editing. So yeah, I'm getting quite a lot from that, which is, yeah, as we know, it's got the lights on it. It's quite nice having the extra memory. As you know, in the SPD-SX, it only had 4 gigabytes, miserable 4 gigabytes of memory, which I know myself and a lot of other drummers, they actually upgraded. But I don't think that you can upgrade the SD card / memory drive inside this device. It's something probably that we'll need to look at in the future, but 32 gigabytes of memory for now, I wouldn't say that was massive, to be quite honest. 32 gigabytes, but I don't know, it is what it is. And then, so this is one thing that I think will be the big selling point and the thing that would swing a lot of players, including myself, if they can make this SPD-SX Pro app kind of like the flagship and go-to software with the SPD-SX Pro hardware itself. If they've got that right, I believe this will be sort of a game-changing product from Roland. The old SPD-SX app, I wasn't a fan of. If any of you have used it, I was kind of sold on, well, you can drag and drop your samples and it's just going to work. And the software that Roland created, it felt like they never updated it. I don't think they ever did update it, but it was sluggish. I mean, I always had issues importing samples, and in the end, a third-party company, they actually invented and created an app which was for the SPD-SX, which made it a bit more easy to program. But I think if they can get this SPD-SX Pro app, how sort of, I don't know, how they first intended it to work, I think it could be great just for dragging and dropping samples, having it super quick access to your samples. I did try download this SPD-SX Pro app, and I couldn't actually find it on the, I think it's called, I have it behind me on my PC. Bear with me a second. So it is on the Roland Cloud. Yeah, Roland Cloud Manager. And I believe this is Roland's new way of sort of storing samples. I think it's going to be a subscription-based service. You can download this app for free, but I had a look on there and I couldn't see the app for download. They say it's available for download. Correct me if I'm wrong, link me to it if you know where to download it, and when it does come up for download, I want to have a quick look at the software, see what options we've got. Right, okay, so I believe that is Mr. Adam Marcello. I'm not going to watch the videos. Met him before at the London Drum Show. Top guy, top drummer, and drumming for Katy Perry, among other people as well. So yeah, we got this really cool trailer. I'm not going to play these. I'm going to let you play them at your own time. So this is Stephanie B on the drums, advertising it, and I believe this is a comparison between the old and the new, which is quite cool. Yes, that video is, so we got a cool picture here of, I don't know who that is. I did have a look, but I've forgotten. Reliability / durability. You know what? I think I'm going to dive into the specs of this device, because for me, this is the kind of selling point of the pad, apart from how pretty it looks. So it has built-in 9 pads, so there's nothing different there from the old SPD-SX. And now this is the thing that I think is a big improvement from the old SPD-SX, is we have 4 external trigger inputs, so allowing you to connect up to 8 pads with a Y splitter cable. So that is great, having the access to 8 pads, external trigger pads. I've worked with drummers. Shout out to Paul from the Alison Moy crew. He is using the Roland not SPD. It is the TM6 Pro. So I'll get a picture up of that, and it is basically a SPD-SX but without the pads actually on it. So what you're getting on it is it's basically like a trigger input, and I'm quite a fan of these modules. I think they're really good. So as you can see, we have up to 6, so it's 6 inputs and a hi-hat control. But how Paul was doing it, he was actually splitting the pads as well, so you can actually have up to, I believe that would be 12 plus a hi-hat control. So he was splitting his pads, and his whole kit was electronic, and I set that up for him this summer. But yeah, that is the TM6 Pro. And going back to the Roland, so it has up to 8 pads. So I think 8 pads is enough when you've got the additional 9 on top. So that is really cool. That is going to be a good seller for a lot of drummers, adding up to 8 external triggers. So maximum polyphony, 32 voices included click voices, number of recordable wave data, 20,000 including preload data. So whatever's installed on this device, you could delete all that, or you couldn't, and you could have up to 25 individual samples basically. The internal storage is 32 gigabytes, so that is an improvement over the last SPD-SX. I think the red one that they released was 16 gigabytes, so it's doubled in memory and storage size, so that's cool. Sampling time, so you can actually record in through the back of, let me just see, I need to get a good picture of it. Bear with me 1 second, guys. Oh, Roland SPD-SX Pro. So yeah, I want to see the back of this device. Because I think that's the most important thing, really. So yeah, so what were we talking about? So yep, so you can sample audio in, so 60 minutes per sample, and then so you could record the sample for 60 minutes, so you could record like a microphone or from your phone, anything that you want, straight into the SPD-SX, and then you could basically edit up to 10 minutes of that per sample. So the audio input here is this line input, so, and it's got the gain control, so that's really quite a cool feature to have on the SPD-SX for sampling, live looping, etc. Data format, so it's 16-bit. Yep, 16 bits, pretty cool. If you don't know about bit data, have a look. It's basically sort of like, if you could imagine sort of like a pixel format of like 1080p, you know, like with video. It's basically kind of like the audio version of that. It's the bit sort of like, it's hard to explain. It's like the bit depth. But yeah, you can kind of visualize it on the screen, which is quite cool. But 16-bit linear, so that's pretty much good for anything you're not really gonna tell. 48 kHz sampling frequency, yep, that's good. Input format, so you can have it as you can import files such as a WAV, which is kind of the industry standard. The AIFF, that is good. No, that is really cool. And MP3, you can have 200 kits, so that would be 200 kits that you created, or 200, I guess it would be 200 backing tracks as well. You could have, it's just 200 scenes that you could scroll through. Preload wave, factory preloaded samples, 1,550 or more. Set list 32 steps per set list. I don't know what this means, so I don't know if that is going to be the set list as in, I think it is sort of relating to how the set list feature worked on the TM6 Pro. So you could actually create like a little set list on it. So you could have up to 32 set lists, which would basically hold your kits that you wanted. Kit effects. So layer, equalizer, each pad, layer A, B independently. Layer transient, each pad, layer A, B independently. Multi-effects, 53 types. 4 systems. Sidechain compressor, 1 system. So these are the effects that are loaded into the Roland SPD-SX Pro. I think it's going to be something that when people actually get this in hand, we can actually see how deep that we can actually dive with the equalizer, transients, multi-effects, etc. I believe as well on the front, it does actually have, let's have a quick look together. So I think it does actually have a transient release button here and a transient attack button here. So that would be the control for these effects. System effects. So yeah, we've got master effects, 53 types, master compressor and master equalizer. So that could be quite handy. Number of USB audio record playback channels. So sampling rate, as we said previously, 48 kHz. Sampling rate. So this is something that's really cool, is now we can actually import our samples, and it is going to convert the samples to the rate that the SPD-SX is formatted to. So if you know previously, with the old editor, you would have to open up Logic or whatever DAW that you're using, Pro Tools, Ableton, anything like that, and you would actually have to export your samples to the right sampling format. And when I first got the SPD-SX, I was thinking, well, why is it not working? Why are my samples not importing? And this was because I wasn't exporting them at the right sampling rate. So that's really cool, having that sampling rate converter now. It just makes it super easy. You don't have to open your DAW. It was very annoying on the old SPD-SX. So that is a really cool feature. Record 8 channels. So number of USB. So you can record up to 8 channels. I believe that must be individually on the device. I might be wrong with that. And then playback, it's saying 12 channels. So let's just have a quick look at the back of the device, because playback to me is like basically line out, and it could be like something like backing tracks. So you'd have, is it saying it has up to 12 channels of playback? Because I believe these outputs are mono on the back. So I'm going to get to these outputs in a sec. This is a really cool new feature. So you can have essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I would say that was 8, unless these are, I think they're mono, but 8 outputs for playback. But on here it says 12 channels. Is that just for, it's probably just for the USB outputs. I'm not too sure. I'd have to sort of deep diving into that. So the display, that's something that's really cool on the new SPD-SX Pro. It's got a brand new display. It's in color this time. It looks very appealing and intuitive to use. So it should make it a bit easier loading samples and importing them into your pads. So that is a cool new feature. The connectors. So we have a phones jack. So that's a stereo 1/4 inch phone type for your in-ear monitors or headphones. Master output. So we have a left and right, which is what the old SPD-SX had. And then, so we have direct out. So this is where it gets quite cool, I believe, for the SPD-SX Pro. On the old one, you can see we only had the master outputs and the sub outputs really to play with, and the phones. With the new SPD-SX Pro, you can actually output samples via these direct out balanced inputs. So you could output, let's say you want the kick to come out of 1, you could have the kick come out to 1. The snare could come out of 2. Toms could come out of 3, and then cymbals or hi-hat could come out of 4. So that's a really cool feature if you are a musician playing live and you're working with a sound engineer who wants to individually mix the kick, the snare, etc. like that, and it just gives you the more flexibility. It has a similar feature to the TM6 Pro, which is, it has the 4 direct outputs, but then it does include it's basically 6 channels plus the phone. So you could have up to 8 outputs with the TM6 Pro. When I was working with Paul, we utilized 6 of these outputs. So that is pretty much the same on the back of the Roland. So that is really quite cool. To have that much flexibility and control as a front of house sound engineer. So that is something that I like, and I believe other people are going to like, and it's going to be a complete sort of game changer. Something like the Alesis Strike on the back, I believe it only has like, let's have a look. Let's have a quick look at the back of this. Is that the drum module? Yeah, you see they've got all different sort of names. So there we go. Let's load up sound. So it looks like it's only got, I think it's only got like 4 outputs on the Strike pad. So that is an upgrade. If you were thinking, oh, it looks the same, it probably does the same. Well, this does have more outputs on the back. So we have the audio in, so that was for sampling, stuff like that, etc. Trigger input, so you can have up to 8 mono pads, as we were talking about before, which I think is brilliant. We can have the foot switch, so you could use a Boss, let's say a Boss foot switch. So that would be to switch through your scenes, your kit, your set list, etc. Without having to touch the pad itself. Something that I do think is really cool, we do have this hi-hat control / expression pedal jack input. So if you're using an external hi-hat, this is going to be a game changer. So that is very similar to the TM6 Pro. I know I keep going back to this, but I think it's kind of like the closest product to the SPD-SX Pro without the pads. But so that is that. So that's got the hi-hat control expression. We have a MIDI input / out through connectors. So that is your standard, I think it's called a DIN connector. So these ones on the back. So you have input, output. It's pretty standard. And I believe this USB-B output can be used for MIDI as well. So that's really cool. So you can use USB computer port B, and then USB memory port, USB A. That's your standard type USB. So that is to backup, save, load, sample, import, export. So that would be your basically how you're going to get your samples in and out of the device. If you are using a USB stick, or downloading the samples via the SPD-SX Pro app, which is about to come out. DC, so we have a 12 volt adapter, 15, whatever that is, current draw. Accessories, so you have the quick start manual, all that good stuff. You get the power adapter as well. And that is all the things that is sold separately. So as we were saying, the dimensions are the same as the old pad, so you're not going to be caught out if you have a case for the old one. You can use your old case and it is going to fit perfectly fine. The weight is 3 kilograms, so not too heavy, and that will basically go next to your kit. So yeah, who do I think this pad would benefit? It's a tough one because I'm in the camp of I really like this format of the pads. And the thing I found with my SPD-SX is I didn't actually use it too much or to its full potential. I don't know if that was because I didn't like the software, but I'm more of a fan of probably MIDI running Ableton, so I could use any MIDI controller essentially. But Roland, I always feel like, have very good integration with pads and being able to dial in settings, so that is a plus. I would buy this pad if I was probably running backing tracks, because on the output of this device, let's have a quick look. So you could have, let's say, like if you were running backing tracks, this would be quite cool. You could run your click out of the left channel. You could run your bass out the right channel. So these would be like mono. You could run your kit, let's say your pad sounds, you could run them out of 1 and 2, so you'd have a stereo pair, and then you could run everything else out of 3 and 4. So that would give basically enough outputs to a sound engineer to have flexibility with it not being, let's say, a master out, just a left and right. it will give you multiple outputs. So that's really quite cool. One thing, it's only a little thing, but if you are a drummer live, this doesn't have redundancy that I know of yet. So redundancy is basically if you were to have two of these devices, you would have to basically it's quite hard to explain, but you'd have, let's say if this one died mid gig, that you'd have to switch out your cables on the back. I don't think there's a way that you could link two SPD-SX Pros together. So that's what I'm talking about. If you could link a way that you could link the two SPD-SX Pros together, so it made it a redundant system with the outputs. So let's say this died mid gig, you're going to have to switch over the outputs to the other pad, or use a splitter like a Radar SW8, and that would give you a redundant setup with these Roland pads. So that's something to think about. But usually these Roland pads are pretty hardcore when it comes to reliability and working and getting to a gig. So you're not going to really have to worry. That was just something in my head. Yeah, apart from that, I think it's a great bit of gear. I'm probably going to wait for a couple of reviews to come out just to see how it works. I think the biggest thing for me is how this software is going to operate, and if it's going to be good for you or not. Because I quite like, I'm kind of a bit like in Paul's boat. When I was talking to Paul, he was saying I like using external triggers, and I'm the same. For me, an SPD-SX sampling pad is too small, so it's quite nice to have the option of the additional triggers. But having such a small footprint, how handy is it to have just a sample pad with 9 triggers on it ready to go? You could have your whole show on it, you could have your backing track, you could have all your drum electronic samples, you could run MIDI, you can run everything else. But I think this is a good upgrade for the Roland SPD-SX pad. Yeah, let me know what you thought of this sort of video. Just wanted to talk to you today, do a raw video talking about the SPD-SX Pad Pro. It's quite exciting to see something new come out from Roland. It's been quite a while. Also, that is something I did think of, is if they could make this software that they have for the SPD-SX Pro and apply it to the TM6 Pro, are they going to integrate somehow? I think that would be great to see the SPD-SX Pro editor used with the TM6 Pro, because the TM6 Pro, when loading in samples, it can be quite hard to scroll through each sample and pad assign. It takes quite a long time. But yeah, that's the video today. I hope you have enjoyed me talking about the Roland SPD-SX Pro. I'm certainly excited about it. It's got me intrigued. I want to check it out further. If you like this video, remember to like and subscribe to my channel, and comment for more suggested product deep dives and look-ats. Anyway, thank you very much, guys. Take care. Bye.